Hi, hello, it's Nikki and welcome to my messy bookshelf. Today I'm here to share my weekly wrap-up. I decided I was going to go back to weekly wrap-ups instead of bi-weekly because I have a lot going on this month. So I finished 2 books this week and made progress in another. And I have a stack here that I am going to start reading this coming week with the new month. So the first book that I finished was Rare Tongues by Lorna Gibb. And this was a nonfiction that focuses on, the author is a linguist and she focuses on traveling the world and learning about different languages that are endangered or extinct. Although she cautions us against using the word extinct and instead tries to encourage us to use the word dormant because some languages are making a comeback. This book was very interesting, having just read Babel and also the Midnight at Chernobyl book that I finished last week. And it was it's a very fascinating topic. If you like languages, I definitely recommend it. It wasn't too long of a read, but there are sections of it that can be a bit dry. However, in this book, she highlights many languages. She highlights different languages from around the world that she has gone to either visit or speak with people that live in that part of the world, and their language has dwindled to only a handful of speakers or no one is fully fluent anymore. So a very fascinating topic, talks a lot about how colonization eradicates languages, not just people, but their languages and kind of their sense of identity. So very important stuff, and I found that aspect fascinating. However, there were times when I found the author to be almost a little pretentious in the way that she writes. This is a very brief glimpse into these languages that she's talking about. This is meant for a lay person. This is more than likely going to be read by someone who is not a linguist. I would imagine so. That is not a linguist, that's just interested in the topic. And sometimes she brings in very technical language with no explanation as to what that is. And I did check the appendix. There is an appendix at the back. And some of these terms and phrases are not listed in the appendix whatsoever. In fact, there is no list in the appendix. It's just her talking about certain linguistic concepts. But for instance, actually, I wrote one down because I was like, no one is going to know what this is. We're just talking briefly about the stories of certain people that live in these parts of the world where the language has dwindled. And then she pulls out a phrase, pharyngeal fricative. And, I thought it was kind of funny and a little bit pretentious. I found it a little pretentious, but I do think it's important what she's trying to do. And it was fascinating to learn about different languages. She even covers some languages that are spoken through clicks, through whistles, and languages that are hidden in plain sight that I didn't even know existed. So it was worth the read, but I think that I am a little overloaded from nonfiction. So I think that for the month of March, I probably won't be diving into any more nonfiction. But yeah, definitely worth the read, especially if you have an interest in languages. Now, the other book that I finished was The Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb. And I had talked about how I wanted to find a fantasy that I could sink my teeth into, that I could really sink my teeth into. And boy, did this deliver. This book was fantastic. I fell in love with this book. I fell in love with this book so much that when I finished it, I may or may not have gone out and bought the second one. And I said, please, Nikki, don't be so foolish as to try and fit in book 2 in the month of March when you have all these other books going on. But I don't make the smartest decisions sometimes. But I loved this book so much. I have been searching for fantasy that made me feel the way I did when I read the Lord of the Rings trilogy and Game of Thrones and what's another one that I really love? The Wheel of Time series. Something that the world is wonderfully built, that's not cheesy, because I find sometimes the fantasy that I pick up nowadays, it's kind of a little bit cheesy or not written very well. So I love this. Our main character in this book is a boy slash teenager towards the end named Fitz, and he is the illegitimate son of one of the royal princes who was next in line to the throne. And he is sort of thrust into life sort of in the royal family, but not quite. And he learns a lot of different skills. We learn that there is a threat to the kingdom from some raiders that are coming and raiding the coastal towns. And there is a lot of political intrigue in this book. I loved all the political intrigue. And Fitz, he has some unique skills. So I loved Fitz. I loved many of the characters that were surrounding him, secondary characters, and some of our sort of other main characters. I loved them. I loved them a lot. So I loved it. And I am so glad that I finally picked this up, because people have been recommending this book for years. And yes, I was not disappointed at all. So loved it, loved it, loved it. Please, if you are looking for a fantasy, it was wonderful. It was wonderful. And then I did make progress. You can't really tell because it's such a brick, but I have made it to chapter 12. I'm about 107 or 108 pages into The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexander Dumas, and I did not expect to enjoy this book the way that I do so early on in such a brick of a book. So I'm not going to share too much because I am making a little series of myself reading this book. So I will share my thoughts there. But yes, I'm glad that I finally picked this one up. It's, you know, the sheer size of it has been a little bit intimidating, but I said, you know, I read some bricks last year. I can do it this year too. Now, I have not made progress in The Stand. I knew that it was kind of silly of me to try and read two mammoths at the same time. However, what I did read of this book made me want to keep reading it. So I have not put this book away. It is still out. It is still out. So we will see. Now that I am done with the nonfiction book that I was reading, if I can start possibly diving back into this one, because I don't want to put it away. Like I said, if I have to, I will put it away until next month, April, or maybe even Big Book Summer, but I do want to read this sooner rather than later. So yeah, it's staying out. It's staying out. I haven't decided not to read that one yet. And then tomorrow I will be starting The Glass Hotel, because tomorrow is March 1st. So we will be reading that for audio miles, and I will be listening to that on a nice long walk tomorrow. Additionally, I have a couple of other books that I am going to get started on for the different events that I am participating in. So for mysteries, I think, because I have not gotten my pre-order yet, I think I am going to give this one a try, and that's The Impusium by Olga Tokarzuk. Yeah. So I mentioned this in my pile of possibilities, and this is a mystery slash maybe horror in the Polish mountains, a resort in the mountains. Something is hunting the people at this resort. So yeah, I'm gonna give it a try, and you know, I have so many possibilities for this month, so we'll see how that one goes. And then I did decide on the book that I will be reading with my daughter for middle grade March, or one one of the middle grades I will be reading, but this one will be with my daughter, and that is The Magician's Elephant by Kate DiCamillo. Looking forward to this one because I've heard that it was very good. So, yep, that is my pile for now. It has been a very excellent week. The Assassin's Apprentice was excellent. I finally finished Rare Tongues. And yeah, Count of Monte Cristo. So I have high hopes for the month of March. But yeah, I would love to hear if you have read any of these or what your plans are for this coming week with all the stuff going on in March. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video. Take care. Bye.